time, So I wanted to go to maybe different sources now. So I want you to, with the different types of people I talk to you about here, I want you to kind of give the version of the type of person you would listen to versus the person that you wouldn't listen to. So I'm going to start with parents first of all, because parents, um, a lot of them in youth hockey, a lot of them don't really know a whole lot about what goes on beyond youth hockey because they have young kids that are in youth hockey. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some people know more than others. So if you were to present the version of the parent that you would avoid versus the version of the parent that you would maybe listen to, because a lot of these people, like the parents are your friends. Like these are the people that you're going to get advice from. These are the people that you're going to bounce ideas off of because they're in your network. So what's the kind of version of each of those, the good parent, the bad parent that you would pay attention to versus not? And how highly do you value that opinion in general?
There was a couple parents that when I grew up, or not grew up, when I was bringing my kids through hockey, that were pretty intelligent people. So I like a lot of times I'd base any information I got. It wasn't necessarily the hockey piece. It was just common sense, or they had intelligent approach to questions, right? So, like one of my friends was a doctor, and we would talk about things, and we'd have conversations. They would typically talk about the hockey, but I would like talk about other things, and I would find that people that had interest in other things that could talk and maybe talk about their life or their business or their profession or their lifestyle and stuff. You can kind of pick, okay, this person's got their head on straight, right? So you can actually have a conversation.
That wasn't just 100% hockey every second. Is
Yeah,
that what you mean?
yeah. So when it came down to if we talked about hockey and they mentioned something about, hey, what do you think of this? They were asking a question that was like actually a question. They weren't looking for the right answer. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then sometimes I would say something because and there's a lot of parents that were kind of careful to not like careful to what they said to me because didn't want to sound like dumb or not. I don't want to say it like that, but they knew that I knew something. But when you're dealing with like people that have a brain, they can challenge you on things and you're not offended by it because it's just like in common sense. Like they could look like, for example, let's say one of my friends he has a doctor, and we would talk about things, and he would talk about his son, my son, not on the same level, but it would be like we're on a different level though. My son's here. I go, yeah, and then he goes, so do you ever think of like with your kid? Just think of practical things like would it be better to stay back or to this, that, and the other thing, and we could talk about it. Like I would just get some good life thought patterns rather than just straight up hockey stuff. I don't know if that made sense.
Well, if I'm tightening it up, basically you're saying that the parents that you would speak to that could, number one, talk about more than just hockey. So they're not just enthralled with youth hockey at all second of the day. It's not the most important thing necessarily in their whole life. That was one positive thing from the people you talk to. And then the second is they seem to have an element of realism to their conversation where they could gauge honestly where different people were at, where they were at, and not just with hockey, but just with anything. They seem to have a level of intelligence or common sense about those things. So when you had the conversation, it felt like it was actually reciprocal and that they were hearing you, you were hearing them, and we're actually being productive here. We're not just spinning talking about who knows what kind of things. I kind of
yeah. So like an example, I was having lunch one day with like this has nothing to do with hockey now. I was having lunch one day with a person who is an actual billionaire, and we're shooting the shit. And he told me that every year he gets rid of the bottom third, maybe a little less, but about bottom third of his staff. He goes because they're unproductive. I said, really? And then he explained it. I said, that makes total sense. So if you look at it, say you have 100 people, it's the 80-20 rule almost, right? So he goes, there's that people that are always dead weight. And no matter what you do, they're dragging you down. So you can replace them. So I just flipped that. That's what I'm talking about, a conversation. How does that apply to hockey now? Or how does it apply to my business? So, and really for the business, it was very true. Our bottom our bottom third of our employees year after year are the ones that it's like, we don't need you. You're just here taking a paycheck. What about hockey? Well, if you think of a hockey team as a coach or as a player, that really you probably going to get rid. If you turned over the bottom third of your team every year, you're probably not going to be in a bad spot, right? Because you might get someone hungrier, you might get someone that listens more, you might get someone equal talent with a different version of whatever. So that was a conversation that had nothing to do with hockey, but it had everything to do with applying it to hockey. So that's kind of what I mean. It's like if you could take conversations that have common sense and you apply it to
Yeah, you can
the
extract the lesson,
yeah,
use it.
extract the lesson.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So now give me the version of the parent where it seems obvious, but the type of person that you're gonna say, okay. But honestly though, because there's some of these guys like I got one guy in mind right now where for some reason people want to listen to this guy, and I can't. Yeah, like I can't understand how wherever he goes he's able to get people's ear to listen to him. I don't understand this, and but it happens year over year, and I'm curious as to how parents can't see it or get trapped by it and what the qualities are. Like if we use, because it's not even one person I'm thinking of several different people, and what qualities.
Same person, different face.
Yeah, like what qualities do you think that person has that makes them enticing or makes it seem like they might know something where you feel like parents could get trapped by what this person says?
Well, they get themselves on boards, they get themselves on coaching, they get themselves involved in the spring team, they get to know a little bit of this person, that person, and this person. And they talk to everybody, and they're involved in everything. And they told you about what's going on in Hamilton, and oh yeah, this guy, the coach in here on Perth is this, and the guy in Ottawa is this, and they in the know of everything, and they throw enough mud on the wall that some of it sticks for people. And for me, it was just that guy. Don't talk to me. For me, that was like at the games. Hi, how you doing, man? That's it. We're not talking. We're not talking. Well, I don't mean we're not talking. What it means is we're not talking. No, what it means is that we will not talk.
Well,
like
it goes to the what you
we're
said
not
before.
talking.
It's what you said before as like if we do talk, it's a version of talking that we're not getting into this.
Not
kind of
really
thing.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to hear what you have to say, or I'll just talk and I get out of there as fast as I can. I always like to be nice to people. I always like to be friendly enough, like, hi, how you doing? Because people deserve that, and I'm who the hell am I, anyways? But when we start talking about, you start hearing their opinions, like, just leave me alone, man. Just stay away from me. You're dangerous. And they have the secret conversations on the side. It's so funny. Like they come over and ask you, like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" Like there's a rumor mills. Hey, you hear about this? You hear about this? I'm like, no, or I did, but I always say no. And then they go and tell someone else, and it's like I should stay away from them. I just stay away from them because at the end of the day, like I know this isn't rocket science. Like there's such a small percentage of people or players are going to move on to any level. Like it's such a small percentage, and it's not to say that your kid won't or my kid will or anything like that, but it's such a small percentage that all this talk is nonsense, anyways. Like I honestly, I said this to you, maybe it was a couple podcasts ago, and I've said this to you a million times. Is when my kids played sports, Avery was in volleyball, Carter played hockey, baseball, and Charlie was every sport. I actually just want them to play sports. I played sports with them because I love sports. I enjoyed it. I loved everything that sports had to offer, the good and the bad, because the bad, it makes you a better person too. But there was a point where my son got to, I think he was 14, where I said to my wife, I said, okay, based on where he is right now, if he continues to develop, he will get his school paid for because he's got the base. That's all I ever said. I never ever talked about the National Hockey League, right? But it took that long, so I enjoyed it, and I knew that at that point, 14, it was 14 or 13, but I qualified it too. If he continues to develop, he's got the foundation to have his school paid for. And then it was 14. I said, yeah, his school will get paid for sure, because the next level is like, who knows? Nobody knows. I don't care who you are, except for the very, 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 very small amount. So all the talk to me was nonsense.
Yeah.
Just me.
Yeah.